Salve amici! Oggi entriamo nella mente di uno dei serial killer più famosi d'America. Mettetevi comodi. Inserite i sottotitoli e entriamo nella mente e nella vita di Ted Bundy. Buona visione!
Thompson. They included never-before-seen crime scene photos, Ted Bundy interviews, and audio files from a historic meeting called the Aspen Summit, which all show how in the 1970s, detectives from different states came together to solve one of the most heinous serial killer rampages in history.
From January to July of 1974, the King County area was engulfed in a wave of fear as young women were being attacked and murdered with alarming regularity.
It's the fall of 1974, and detectives in Seattle are searching for the man responsible for murdering 8 women in the Pacific Northwest.
I took it as a heavy responsibility. I wanted to find the guy before he killed more people.
A man who was described as a smooth-talking man with his arm in a cast, who asked several women to help him load a boat onto a Volkswagen.
There was the name, Ted. There was the composite drawing. There was a beige VW Bug.
But when the murders there abruptly stop, only to start again in Utah, detectives in 3 states, Washington, Oregon, and Utah, are working blind, unaware of any connection.
At the time, jurisdictions didn't always cooperate with each other. They didn't share.
Back in Seattle, Ted Bundy is just one name among 200 potential suspects. But then, Bundy makes a huge mistake, and a victim gets away.
When Carol DeRanch escaped, we felt that they were on the verge of breaking this case wide open.
After she broke loose, Mr. Ranch flagged down a passing car, and an elderly couple drove her to the Murray police station.
Now in other news, the Great Salt Lake...
When I first heard about the attack on Carol DeRanch, I was actually on vacation in Oregon salmon fishing.
Retired detective Paul Forbes was with the Murray City Police Department in the Salt Lake City metro area.
And my boss said, "You're gonna have to give up the extra 5 days. We need you to get home." So I made it back home as quickly as I could.
Now safe from harm, Carol DeRanch recounts the horrific ordeal to Detective Forbes.
Carol DeRanch said he had tried to handcuff her to the Volkswagen glove compartment, but by some stroke of luck, he accidentally gets both cuffs on the same wrist. So she is not chained to the car. She just ran into the street. She said, "I don't know how I did it, but I was able to get away."
She was hysterical, and it was hard getting out of her what happened. This man had kidnapped her and was maybe gonna hurt her. Tough little girl.
So he's got a woman out there somewhere in Salt Lake City that has seen him, heard his voice, seen his car, and the only thing that he has going for him that November night is that she doesn't know his name.
And at this point, no one is connecting this to all of the murdered and missing girls.
I have spent many hours with Carol going through the mall, all of the areas where he had taken her before he got her finally in the car.
Carol DeRanch describes her attacker as having a mustache and long hair past his ears.
She noticed that he was wearing green pants, a blazer, and shiny patent leather shoes. She She also remembers that he's driving this ratty Volkswagen and that the back seat was torn up.
We felt in the newsroom, and maybe some police officers did too.
Okay, thank you, Sandy.
They ought to be able to identify this guy before too long.
But that very same night, another girl is snatched from a crowded high school theater just 20 miles away in the Salt Lake suburb of Bountiful.
Immediately after Carol DeRonch gets away, a man approached 24-year-old drama teacher, Raylan Shepard, who was directing a musical at a high school in Bountiful that night. He was following her around before the play began, asking her to come out to the parking lot to help him.
He did that night approach girls in the hall, in the lobby, to go out and help him with his automobile, get him started or checking something.
And she's like, no, I'm busy. I've got stuff to do.
He subsequently approached another woman at the drinking fountain, was more aggressive and more assertive about it.
The second woman rebuffs the man's advances as well.
I think he got a little frustrated that he wasn't able to use his ruse to get anyone to go with him. Deborah Kent was a 17-year-old high school student in Bountiful, Utah. She came from a big family. She was very popular. She was described as just a really sweet, kind person.
That night, Deborah goes to see the school musical with her parents, while her little brother goes roller skating at a nearby rink.
Debbie's father gave me the keys to his car to go out and get the car to go downtown and pick up her young brother.
During the play's intermission, Debbie heads out of the theater to pick up her brother, but she never makes it to the car.
It's not known exactly what happened in the parking lot. It seems possible that he just accosted her and grabbed her. Deborah Kent was never seen again.
The next morning, Bountiful PD are searching the entire area, and one officer finds a handcuff key laying on the sidewalk. You've got something that shouldn't be there, and it could likely be from the man who was involved in her abduction.
Bountiful investigators interview witnesses and learn that the man was seen leaving the auditorium, but then returned a short time later.
When he was seen earlier, he was well-dressed, clean, neat, well-kept, well-groomed, very calm, very cool. At 10:30, which is about the time the play ended, the same people saw him again, only now he was very disheveled, he was breathing hard, he was perspiring, and just having a completely different appearance.
My theory is that he realized that he had dropped the handcuff key. And if he couldn't find that handcuff key, they might be able to connect him to the Carol DeRonch kidnapping.
At this point, there are multiple young women missing or found murdered in the Salt Lake area. Melissa Smith in October, Laura Amy later that month, and now Deborah Kent in early November. Carol DeRonch had barely escaped an abduction. And then, as if ripped from a horror movie, there's another grisly discovery.
Right around Thanksgiving break, two Brigham Young University students were playing hooky, and they wanted to go for a hike in American Fork Canyon.
American Fork was a beautiful canyon. It's just on the other side of the end of Salt Lake Valley. There's hikes that you could take up there.
They were walking down just this trail that was kind of close to a stream. And they noticed the body of a young woman lying in the brush at the bottom of this embankment. And the girlfriend said, "Oh my God, I think that's a dead girl." And they immediately went and notified police, who quickly identified it as being the body of Laura Amy. Laura Amy had been strangled and she had blunt force trauma to her head from some kind of blunt object, which we would later find out was a crowbar.
The body was dumped in among some logs just off of a road, a parking lot area at American Fort Canyon, nude.
These are the IME photos.
Mm-hmm.
A nylon stocking tied around the neck, chain, necklace. The body was washed. The hair was washed, even had a shampoo smell to it. The cause of death was either by strangulation or by massive blows to the head.
Sorry, it's heavy.
Yeah. Take a minute.
Laura Amy and Melissa Smith were both found, nude and abandoned, in remote canyons, beaten, and then strangled.
Jerry Thompson's boss, Pete Hayward, was one of the cops who realized these girls were likely killed by the same individual based on the similar MO, saying we got a real nut out there.
A lot of these people took this case very personally. It was an attack on their towns, on their communities.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a detective more invested than Mike Fisher of Colorado.
He was working the Karen Campbell case, who would come with her boyfriend, Dr. Raymond Godowski,
and his 2 children to Aspen, Colorado.
Karen Campbell just wanted to have a nice vacation, and she was starting her life over. She had a new fiance, and she was on a skiing trip that also happened to be a cardiology conference for her fiance. It was supposed to be sort of a bonding trip for her to get to know these children before she married into the family. She had never been to Aspen before. She was from Dearborn, Michigan. Karen Campbell went to dinner the night of January 12th. She was walking with her fiance Raymond, his 2 kids, and their friend.
She wanted to go back to her room to get a magazine. And so she walked through this complex, got on an elevator, and she never got to her room. The magazine was there, the room wasn't open.
She disappeared. And that's when Mike Fisher was called in.
Mike Fisher was an investigator for Colorado with the Attorney General. He was an investigator really for the state.
At the time when he didn't have very many leads on the Karen Campbell disappearance, he was looking at every single hotel room, every single person who had checked in. He was comparing those hotel check-in lists to all the jurisdictions from where those people had originated to see if there were any priors. He was dogged, and he was chasing down every possible lead.
His work was really extraordinary in piecing things together.
Fisher became personally involved with the Karen Campbell case. I think that he felt offended that someone would come to his beautiful resort town just to be taken away from her family and this new life that she was trying to start.
The night Karen disappeared, it snowed heavily, obscuring the roads and ditches, making the search for her body all but impossible.
A month later, a passerby noticed driving down Owl Creek Road, which was at the time kind of a lonely, deserted road near Snowmass. They saw a flock of crows pecking at something and called police. It was her remains. It seemed that she had been just tossed over the guardrail, and that when the snowplows had come through, they had covered her in snow. They're hard to look at.
Reports from Jerry Thompson's case files explain that coyotes had apparently consumed some of Karen Campbell's remains, making it impossible to determine if she had been strangled.
I think the autopsy said blunt force trauma and exposure to the elements.
They said that she may have been still barely alive and actually froze to death that night.
Mike Fisher said that the DA said, "Fish, you'll never find out who did this. You've got nothing to work with." And of course, Fisher chuckled at that. "No, I'm gonna find this guy."
Just 2 weeks after Karen Campbell's remains are found, King County detectives in Washington get a big break, though a tragic one.
A massive search was launched after the discovery of the skeletal remains of 6 women in the mountains east of Seattle.
What do you got there, Bob?
Just more bones so far.
Jawbones, as a matter of fact, aren't they?
Well, one kind of looks like a jawbone, yes.
In March of 1975, forestry students were out surveying Taylor Mountain. They realized that they had discovered the dump site for the missing Pacific Northwest victims at that point.
The word is that both you and Seattle police are proceeding on the assumption that there are more bodies out here.
Well, that probably is. You get in that woods and you just don't know what's in there. It's so thick and so overgrown with bushes that you could find anything, you know, a couple hours from now or 5 minutes from now.
It was heavy vine maple, and as Bob Keppel was making his way through surveying the scene, he tripped and fell down, and as he looked up, he was looking at a skull.
Up at Taylor Mountain, Linda Ann Healy, Susan Elaine Rancourt, Roberta Kathleen Parks, Brenda Ball. And then previously in September, we identified Janice Ott and Denise Noslin. So there are 6 people definitely identified. So we have found nothing but human remains, not one button, ring, so forth.
The Taylor Mountain site shows detectives the same MO as the Issaquah site from the Lake Sammamish double murder.
This was absolute proof that the same killer was responsible for all of these victims.
It was urgency. You got to find this guy and stop the murders in the future.
The victim tally balloons to 13 across the western U.S., but detectives continue to toil in isolation.
At the time, jurisdictions didn't always cooperate with each other. They didn't share, and that was a real detriment to law enforcement because they didn't realize these murders could all be connected.
Law enforcement generally is distrusting of each other, and that's unfortunate that help, when most needed, gets ignored.
The murders continue. In the span of just 3 months, 3 more young women are taken, 2 in Colorado and 1 in Idaho. To this day, none of their remains have ever been found.
For every victim he left behind families that were tortured by the death of a loved one. It's like you drop a pebble into a pond, and the waves and the ripples just go out farther and farther.
The night of August 16th, 1975, there was a Utah Highway patrolman named Bob Hayward who lived in Granger, what is now West Valley City, Utah, a suburb of Salt Lake City. He was just getting off of his shift, and he noticed a VW Bug with its lights off driving past him. He thought, that's a little odd. I know everybody in this neighborhood, and I don't know this car, and driving around at 3 in the morning. Later, he's filling out paperwork, and he gets a call he needs to respond to. He later said that he took a wrong turn driving out of his neighborhood, and if he hadn't taken this exact turn at this exact time, he wouldn't have seen that same VW Bug parked with its lights off outside a house 1 block from where he lived.
They had a lot of burglars in the area. He was suspicious of this guy immediately. But instead of letting him come over and talk to him, Bundy freaked out and took off.
So the VW zoomed away.
It's a great term. I love they use it. Then Bundy rabbited, so the chase was on.
Bundy ran through a couple of stop signs, but he's driving this little dinky VW. He couldn't get away from him.
So Bundy finally pulls over outside of this gas station, gets out of the car,
Hayward opens his door and tells him to stop right there.
Bundy says, "Well, what's the problem, officer?"
So Hayward goes over to Bundy, has him identify himself, said, "I need to see your license." Bundy goes back in his car and gets it. He read his name out, Theodore Robert Bundy.
Hayward didn't like him. He was dressed all in black, found sitting in front of his house, and he knew the people that lived in that house. He had 2 young daughters, teenage girls, and their parents were out of town. He knew that those girls would be asleep, and he didn't like that this man was parked outside of the house.
The passenger seat is removed, and on the back seat, the first thing he sees was the brown gym bag has stuff spilling out of it.
In the open bag, Hayward sees a crowbar and other tools commonly used to commit burglaries.
So Bundy gives him permission to search the car.
Bundy started telling him about how he was a law student at the U.
I was just driving around, it was a different part of town. I'm just exploring.
He was just lost in the neighborhood.
He also said that he had seen a movie at a drive-in.
Hayward said, "Oh yeah? What movie did you see?" Ted goes, The Towering Inferno." And he thought to himself, that's not true, because I know exactly what's playing at that movie theater, and it was a trio of Westerns that night. It was not The Towering Inferno.
So his credibility started to decay.
He knew he was lying, but he didn't understand why he was there. He thought maybe he was planning on burglarizing some houses. They searched his car. They found a crowbar, trash bags, rope,
an ice pick. There were a pair of handcuffs,
and a ski mask. Not the kind of thing that you would usually find in a regular person's car. These seem like burglary tools.
So I asked him about the various things, and he says, "Oh, they're just commonplace items." "What about the handcuffs?" "I found them somewhere in someone's trash."
Not only was Hayward going to charge him with evading a police officer, he was going to also charge him with burglary tools. Of course, he knew that this is more than burglary tools. It's got stuff in there for tying people up.
I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I've tried over 300 cases. Lots of circumstantial evidence is the most difficult kind of case for a defense lawyer. Because you can explain away, say, well, I had the ice pick in there because I went to a kegger, but the nylon mask with the eyes, and after 3 or 4 of them, everything becomes unbelievable.
It appears the man they've arrested is planning to burglarize houses.
But it doesn't make sense that he's a law student. He has no criminal record. We want to find out more about this guy. We're not just going to let him off. So they brought him down to the police station and booked him, fingerprinted him, and then let him go on bail. A few days later, there was a meeting of several of the detectives, sergeants at the Salt Lake County Sheriff.
They would meet every Tuesday, and they would discuss what's going on in their county to see if anything would link up to something else.
The Utah sheriff said, "Hey, I arrested this guy whose name is Ted. He had handcuffs and a crowbar in his car." And Jerry Thompson was there.
One of the detectives mentioned that Bundy was the strangest guy he'd ever met. I remember Thompson said, once his name was mentioned, something went off in my mind and I thought, wait a minute, I know that name. And he said, I went back to my office, and sure enough, there was the information on Bundy.
Jerry Thompson remembers the Seattle tip he received months earlier after Bundy's girlfriend Liz came forward with her suspicions about Ted.
He was very, very interested in this guy from the moment he heard about him because he drove a Volkswagen. He had handcuffs in the car. And so these things started coming back to his mind about Carol DeRanche.
In a flash, the attempted kidnapping of Carol DeRanche and her statement to police connect Ted Bundy as a possible suspect in all the disappearances and murders over the past 18 months.
That was a brilliant piece of intuitive police work. I mean, that's a big turn in this whole case.
I got a call from the Salt Lake County Sheriff who said, I stopped a guy in a car that matched the description. I think he might be your guy.
According to Detective Thompson's files, Ted Bundy really came to light in his eyes with the burglary tools arrest. Thompson thought Bundy's explanation for the items was very poor.
Jerry Thompson can't get over the similarities between all the cases and was determined to catch this killer.
So they're talking to Bundy about the burglary tools charge, and they're saying, you know, we'd really like to clear you of this. Is there a way that you could, let us search your apartment and we can make sure that, you're not associated with these other cases? And he says, sure, search my apartment. I'll sign a waiver.
Jerry Thompson was there, other detectives were there, and a couple patrol officers who sat on either side of the couch while Bundy had to sit there and chatter away for a while. Thompson said he couldn't shut his mouth. He chattered like a magpie.
Jerry was a longtime friend of mine. He was an aggressive guy when we worked together. He was very tenacious about his job, as I was myself. We were doing a thorough search of Bundy's apartment and looking for anything that could place him anywhere in hopes that we could bring more charges against him.
When they were searching his apartment, they thought it was oddly clean and very, very well organized.
They uncovered some things there that turned out to be significant to the case.
Detectives found a bill for a Chevron gas card, which tipped him off to the fact that Ted had gas receipts that they would be able to subpoena eventually. Jerry also noticed in his closet a pair of shiny patent leather shoes.
Detective Thompson recalled that Carol DeRanche had said her attacker was wearing black patent leather shoes. He also finds other possibly incriminating items in Bundy's apartment, including a brochure for the recreation center in Bountiful, the Salt Lake City suburb where Deborah Kent had vanished 9 months earlier.
He also asked him if he'd ever been to Bountiful. He said, oh, I've driven through.
So this is from Thompson's files.
Oh, cool. I've never seen this before. This is the original Bountiful Recreation Center pamphlet that was confiscated from Ted Bundy's apartment on the Avenues.
I'm glad you're allowing me to see this because I've never seen this. Isn't that something?
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever touched something he touched.
I've sort of wondered about keeping these things that were sort of souvenirs that allowed him at some level to kind of relive and revisit. They became almost sacred objects in this narrative of death that he was spinning, and yet they were hugely incriminating.
I think he was considering each murder a trophy.
They found ski guides for Colorado. He asked Ted at the time if he'd ever been to Colorado, and he said no, which was strange because he had these things in his house.
Earlier in questioning, he denied being in Colorado at all, at anything.
That was his first statement when I went to his apartment. He said, that's one state I've never been in.
Part of circumstantial evidence is lying to the police about things that you know you're going to get caught for. Ted was a sociopath, and sociopaths think that they can control everything. I think he did actually believe that he was smarter than they were.
Inside the ski guide, Bundy had taken and placed an X beside the complex in Snowmass, the Wildwood Inn. When Jerry Thompson called Mike Fisher and he told them where the X was, this is Fisher's exact words. "You're shitting me, Jerry. That's where our girl, Karen Campbell, went out." Gotta be the same guy. Gotta be. And of course, from that point forward, Fisher knew. I like Thompson. They knew this was the guy.
But of course, knowing it is one thing. Proving it is something else. Something far more difficult. Before leaving Bundy's boarding house, Thompson and Forbes want to search his car for more evidence to bolster the Carol DeRanch kidnapping case.
When I went through his apartment, I also asked him if I could look at his car. He said he's sure there's no problems. It was down in the back. And I asked him then if I could take some pictures of the car, which he had no objection.
At which point, Thompson goes back to the little parking lot outside of Ted's house and photographs his VW.
He never asked why, what for, or anything else about it.
Because he already knows what we're there for. That's why he didn't say anything.
In taking the pictures of the Volkswagen, I noticed the back seat on the top had a tear almost the whole length of it, which matched the description from a girl who was calling stuffing in the back being torn. His comment then I thought was very unusual. He says, "Jerry, you do a pretty good job." And I asked him, "Well, I think I do a damn good job." And he says, "Now you got a straw and you're trying to fill up the room. Keep going one of these days, you might make it." He would not elaborate any further on his comment.
Yeah, he must have said that to me 6 or 8 times. And I said, "I've already made the broom and you're holding it." Arrogant prick.
He then bailed out of jail on this charge.
While Bundy is out on bail for the burglary tools arrest, Jerry Thompson continues investigating him for the Carol DeRanch kidnapping. Thompson goes to the University of Utah campus to speak with Bundy's professors, but he realizes that Bundy is stalking him.
During the investigation through the law school up there, he followed me around on numerous times, which I was aware of him following me, going to different professors. It seemed each time that he made it a point that I knew he was behind me, he would run over to me, holler at me, shake my hand, tell me I was doing a hell of a nice job, but I was getting tired, I looked like I needed rest, and he was sorry that he worked me so hard. But after all I get paid for it, he didn't.
He enjoyed the chase, he enjoyed the capture, and he enjoyed the finish. All steps, he enjoyed the whole thing.
It was part of the narcissism, I think. He just couldn't help himself. He just loved being the center of attention.
Jerry Thompson visited Carol Durant at her place of work, and he brought with him pictures of Bundy's VW, as well as a number of photographs of men from a lineup. And she looked at them and laid them over one after another, but she put one on her leg, and she said, well, I don't see anybody here. He said, well, what about the one you're holding on to? She says, yeah, that does look kind of like him.
On September 10th, investigators put Ted Bundy under surveillance.
This surveillance started on 9/10/75, and we ran it for approximately 4 or 5 days on the individual.
He would be working on the car, the VW, and he was actively replacing parts of the car, washing it out, sanding down the rust spots, changing the appearance of the car, and he knew they were watching him and couldn't do anything about it.
This time, the car had been changed. The seat no longer had a tear in it. The hubcaps are different. The Volkswagen never had a front bumper or license plate on it, but, you know, it had a bumper on it, had a license plate on it.
The surveillance on Bundy unnerved him.
According to surveillance reports, Bundy would constantly come out from under his Volkswagen, look up and down the street, and then go back to working on the car's bumper.
They're following him around, they're watching his house, to the point where his neighbors are getting a little upset. Some of them are smoking weed and they don't like the cops hanging around their house. His neighbor knocked on Ted's door, and it was partially open, and so he walked in, and Ted was drunk, sitting on his couch. And he said, Ted, I want to know what's going on. And Ted said, oh, the girls. I'm caught. It's because of all the girls. And he said, what do you mean? And Ted said, never mind, never mind.
In September of 1975, Detective Jerry Thompson knows he does not have enough evidence for a prosecutor to charge Ted Bundy with murder. So he flies to Seattle, hoping to convince Bundy's girlfriend Liz to talk to him.
On 3 different occasions on this trip, Thompson interviewed Liz about what she knew about Bundy, what she knew about the murder kit.
Maybe I shouldn't do this. I have a picture here of all the items that we took from his car. I will let you look at them first. And this is, there is cord and rope. It's the handcuffs, it's the punch, the gloves, the ski mask. This is a pair of women's nylon pantyhose with eye holes and a mouth cut out. It's a flashlight, and that's the crowbar. Have you ever seen what's in that gym bag?
No, it's usually empty.
She's weeping, crying there, isn't she?
It sounds like she's crying. Do you hear that? I hear sniffles like she's emotional.
Very highly unusual, would you say, that any man would have these things, other than for what reason? An armed robber, maybe? The handcuffs, the rope bindings, what would you surmise they might be in a person's possession for? To tie somebody up, I would assume. I don't buy his explanation for them.
He's leading her, he's very good.
The nylon pantyhose, he had an explanation. He put them on to keep his ears and his face warm when he was skiing. I says, you don't ski in August.
Is that the ice pick?
I can't answer that either.
What he said.
It's just a house tool.
And there was a tire iron. He left my house late at night, and then he came back to get that. And he looked really sick, you know, like he was hiding something. And I said, what have you got in your pocket? And he wouldn't show me, and I reached and grabbed it. It was a pair of surgical gloves. Weird.
She was expecting an explanation. He walks down the steps and gets in the car and leaves and never says a word.
I've wondered, I read in the paper long ago that there was a girl in Salt Lake that had gotten away. The guy tried to handcuff her to a boat thing or something. I wondered if you had shown his picture to her.
Yes.
And
You put me on the spot, don't you? I can't tell you, Liz.
But she was really hoping that his answer would be, no, she wasn't able to identify him. She was still, at this point, very much hoping that he was innocent and anything she said would be able to exclude him.
After the interview, Jerry Thompson obtains a warrant for Bundy to appear in a lineup for Carol DeRanch, as well as 2 witnesses from the Deborah Kent disappearance. He's hoping they'll be able to identify Ted. Thompson delivers this court order to Bundy's apartment himself.
He had just got out of the shower and was standing at the door with a towel. I confronted him with the paper, not telling him what it was, and I thought he was going to pass out.
And he must have thought he was about to be arrested for one of these murders, because Thompson later told me we could see his heart beating out of his chest.
And I said, "Are you all right?" He says, "I'm fine." When I handed him the paper, he read it, and he says, "Oh, well, if that's all," he says, "be no problem, I'll be there."
He looked at the papers and he was like, oh, it's just a lineup. He thought at that point that he could still get away with it.
Detectives were taking a big risk with the lineup. All it takes is for these people to say, no, he's not the guy. And if that were to happen, Bundy would walk. And so the next day, when he came in there, Thompson's heart was in his throat because he thought, she's gonna misidentify him. His hair's completely different.
The man who walked in was clean-shaven, no mustache, short hair, and the hair was parted on a different side.
What the detectives don't know is that the day before,
Bundy goes to a barbershop, cuts his hair really short, and parts it on the other side.
He was convinced that he could do things so well that they would never actually pick him out.
He thought that they wouldn't be able to identify him.
Carol DeRanch instantly picked him right out of the bunch and said, that's the gentleman. It didn't take her any time at all.
That's all detectives need to arrest Bundy for kidnapping, and they throw him in the Salt Lake County Jail.
Later on that day, I confronted him in the jail and told him that he was under arrest for attempted kidnapping, attempted criminal homicide. The man at that time seemed to breathe easy. His comment was, "Oh, hell or something, is that all?" And he seemed from that point on a very relaxed individual.
I'm sure he's starting to panic a little at this point. He was very good at concealing it, at least in public view.
It wasn't me, I didn't do it, and on and on and on. They're not reliable, they're just guessing. And I just let him ramble. I didn't even answer him. I was just smiling inside. Knew we had him and there was nothing he was going to change.
It meant that Bundy now, instead of being the hunter, he was being the hunted. Because this wasn't about burglary tools, or this wasn't about evading police. This was about kidnapping Carol DeRanch, and also already being suspected in
all the other missing women.
When the news hits the press that Ted Bundy has been arrested for the kidnapping of Carol DeRanch in Salt Lake City, the media back in Seattle catch on that Utah Ted could also be Seattle Ted.
Is Utah Ted Seattle Ted? Oh, that was headline, top of the fold.
And of course, then the media really goes wild.
Bundy once lived in both Seattle and Tacoma. He's charged in Salt Lake City with aggravated kidnap and attempted murder.
Once Bundy was arrested and was on their radar, they let Washington State know it.
But through all the excitement of the Salt Lake City arrest, there's one man here in Seattle who's not at all excited. He is Captain Nick Mackey.
Jeannie, the reason Captain Nick Mackey says he's not excited is simple. He says Ted Bundy is not a prime suspect in the murder of the Seattle women.
The media are the ones that are making him the prime suspect. We are not.
They thought, well, this man has no criminal record whatsoever. He's a student. He's in law school. He has a college degree that he received with honors. He's clean-cut, charismatic. The governor of Washington wrote him a letter of recommendation to law school, extolling the virtues of Ted Bundy. There was no reason to think someone like that could be connected to these sorts of crimes.
We have quite a few people that look very good, and it's surprising. You get onto one person, and people tend to make their suspect fit all the aspects of Ted.
Everything we heard was that he was God's gift to women and the community, and that we were way off base.
The photograph of Ted Bundy was shown to at least 8 witnesses from Lake Sammamish. 7 positively said Ted Bundy was not the mysterious Ted. 1 said he looked something like the man.
Mackey added that the pictures of Ted Bundy so far have produced no results when showed to the witnesses. And he said he has no plans to send any county detectives up to Salt Lake City.
But in Colorado, Mike Fisher looked at it thinking, no, that's not enough. I need to get a murder warrant placed against this guy. We believe it's Bundy. How are we going to make it stick to him?
Next on Hunting Bundy.
We have asked Ted to come up here today to talk to him in regards to numerous homicides.
Ted, have you ever committed murder?
Who's to answer that?
Convicted kidnapper Theodore Bundy has escaped from jail in Colorado.
Now, how did he get out of the cell, sir?
Well, they tore a light fixture out of there years ago. He just went out through there.
The monster has been set free again.
You've been watching Dead Curious, where every story hides a darker truth. Don't look away now. Hit like and subscribe and step deeper into the unknown.